Before we start the stories of our historical entomologists, we want to spotlight some resources for entomologists of all ages. Entomologists of Color, or EntoPOC, is an organization founded to provide paid memberships to professional societies like the Entomological Society of America, Entomological Collections Network, and others that provide mentorship and networking opportunities to connect with other scientists around the world. They also highlight a Scientist of the Month and provide additional resources for inclusive practices. Hashtag Black in Ento is a week highlighting and supporting Black entomologists, following in the steps of events like hashtag Blackbirders Week and hashtag Black in Marine Science to increase visibility and representation of Black scientists in these fields of studies. It runs from February 22nd to 26th and is also holding a fundraiser for scholarships, so please check it out. The International Association of Black Entomologists was founded to provide a point of connection for Black scientists from around the world, from all origins and nationalities, and is an affiliate of the Entomological Society of America. This book of memoirs, published by the ESA in 2015, is a collection of inspiring memoirs of established Black entomologists talking about their journey to the field of insect scientists. As with many historical figures, this video is focusing on just the entomological aspects of a rich and complex life. We encourage everyone listening to continue exploring and read more about these amazing people and the families that they held close. Dr. Charles Henry Turner was a scientist, best known for his work on the behavior of ants and bees. He was a thoughtful and studious young man, graduating as the valedictorian of Woodward High School in 1886. He enrolled in the University of Cincinnati, and when he graduated in 1891, he published his thesis on the anatomy of bird brains in the first issue of the Journal of Comparative Neurology. The next year, Charles Henry Turner was the first Black author to publish excerpts of his study in Science magazine. Turner went straight on to earn his master's degree at the same university, where his advisor updated their practices to hold integrated lab meetings with all graduate students. After graduating, he took a position teaching at Clark College in Georgia for a year before starting his doctoral studies at the University of Chicago, which he completed in 1907. During his graduate studies, Turner discovered and named several different species of tiny aquatic crustaceans and rotifers, doing detailed work on very tiny creatures. Throughout his career, Turner had to endure systematic racism as he published his work and as he looked for academic positions. There were motions to hire him at the University of Chicago until an administration reorganization halted that progress. He finally started a permanent teaching gig at Sumner High School and resumed studying insect behavior after hours for his entire career. In 1910, he was elected to the Academy of Sciences in St. Louis and continued publishing until retiring in 1922. In those years of teaching, it is incredible to think about the amount of work that Turner accomplished while teaching a full-time load of classes every day. He conducted behavioral studies on many types of invertebrates, but is best known for his work with ants and bee behavior. Charles Henry Turner's work on ant colony behavior and communication led the French scientist Victor Cornets to name an ant movement pattern Turner circling in his honor. With bees, he demonstrated that bees can see both color and pattern and use them to create memory pictures of the environment. They are also nearsighted and need to hover close to an object before seeing it properly. Turner overcame numerous barriers to continue his research, enduring long hours and low pay, conducting experiments with no fancy lab facilities and little to no financial or institutional help. Other scientists recognized that his work was valuable, but systematic racism often led him to not getting proper credit for his contributions. In total, Charles Henry Turner published over 70 studies. That's an average of 2 rigorous papers per year. Turner was also a leader in civil rights efforts in St. Louis, advocating for equality. He used the lens of behavioral studies to combat racism and wrote several papers exploring the social conditioning of racism, discussing social responses to the unfamiliar and learning through imitation of conscious and unconscious bias. There are several children's books that explore the life and science of Charles Henry Turner to inspire young folks to reach for their highest goals and discover the fascinating world of insects. Teaching high school is difficult and exhausting, but it is also vitally important for inspiring the next generation, and Turner contributed to the lives of hundreds of students. Whenever you get the chance, thank a teacher. Several elementary schools and a university hall at Clark College, now Clark Atlanta University, are named after Turner, and the Animal Behavioral Society has an award and mentorship program named in his honor. On Charles Henry Turner's tombstone, his epitaph is short, but all-encompassing, and simply reads, "Scientist." Sophie Lutterlough was preparer and researcher at the Smithsonian Institute, working on saving and identifying ticks and mites. She graduated at the top of her class from Dunbar High School in DC and eventually found work at the Smithsonian Museum of Natural History. Unjust racial and gender barriers at the time prevented her from working in a scientific job, but she took a job as an elevator operator for a number of years and walked through the museum on her breaks. It was her aim to become a one-woman information bureau about the museum and helped guests with their questions. She advocated for herself and asked about a position in entomology and got a job preparing insects for the curator J.F. Gates Clark. Preparing insects involves both penning and labeling dry specimens, and making sure that fluid specimens are properly housed and labeled so that they can be in their best condition for future research. After about 2 years, Lutterlough was promoted to research assistant for curator Ralph Crabbill, and through her dedicated work and careful studies, quickly became an expert in identifying myriapods and ticks. Throughout her career, she continued her education to hone her knowledge by taking additional classes in entomology and German. During her time at the Smithsonian, Sophie Lutterlough restored hundreds of thousands of specimens that were otherwise destroyed without her care. Restoration involves soaking dried out specimens in a series of chemical baths to make them appear fresh again. During a single year, the Smithsonian records document 306,000 ticks. And yes, while ticks may seem gross and horrible, this work helps to study them so that we can best avoid tick-borne diseases for humans and other animals. The important historical Bishop collection was all dried out and almost completely lost, and she rescued 35,000 ticks using this method. Lutterlough identified and co-described over 40 new species of ticks with Crabbill before she retired, having dedicated 40 years of her life to the museum. Before retirement, she was presented with an Exemplary Service Award for everything she did for saving the collections and contributing to scientific research. A species of mite is named in her honor, the Pymphorus Lutterlough, which might seem a little strange, but it's pretty cool for entomologists. Upon retiring, Sophie Lutterlough said, "It won't be so easy to leave here after 40 years, and she spent many happy years afterwards with her family. Museum workers often get lost in the rush of scientific publishing frenzy and accolades, but she will always be remembered for the dedication and care that left a lasting mark on such a historic collection." Dr. Margaret Collins is often called the Termite Lady for her lifelong dedication to studying these tiny insects. Margaret James was a young woman who always loved to read. In her interview in the book Black Women Scientists, she said that her drive and passion for science was encouraged by her family, and she never learned what she couldn't do as a child, as a woman, or as a Black person. Having that encouragement and connection with other people who loved biology was inspiring. Because of all of this, because of this support, she graduated high school early at 14 years old and started studies at West Virginia State College. A lackluster professor almost destroyed her enthusiasm for science, but she soon found mentors in Toy George Davis, a Black professor who had recently come from Harvard, and Frederick Lehner, a Jewish refugee scholar from Europe who taught German and French. In 1943, Margaret Strickland, newly married, graduated with a major in biology and a minor in physics and German. She made a cross-country jump to Chicago and studied with Alfred Emerson, entomologists who focus on termites. This ignited a lifelong passion for the little insects, which earned her the nickname Termite Lady for her years of dedication. Emerson was inclusive and forward-thinking in the lab, but unfortunately did not allow women to come on fieldwork expeditions, which is what she was most interested in doing. Her PhD was on the differences of toleration of drying among species of termites, and she was the first Black female entomologist to earn a doctoral degree in the US. With a name shift to Collins, she moved back east, and throughout her career she held positions at Howard University, Florida A&M, and the Federal City College, now the University of DC. Margaret Collins was a strong leader and advocate for civil rights, and throughout her career she endured racism from within the scientific community and without. So much so that one of her guest lectures was canceled due to a bomb threat. During the Tallahassee bus boycott in Florida, she volunteered her car to drive people to and from work, ensuring the success of the campaign. Collins was vocal about the American Academy for Advancement of the Scientists' appointment of a scientist that perpetuated racist ideas under the guise of science, and organized an AAAS symposium titled Science and the Question of Human Equality. This steadfast work on civil rights activism delayed her publication record for 5 years, but she wouldn't change a thing, saying, "I did what I thought was the most important thing. That's all there is to it." In 1979, she reopened her mentor Emerson's field station in Cartabo, Guyana, to continue the research on native species, and her fieldwork took her across the world. Margaret Collins retired from her several teaching appointments in 1983, but immediately embarked on a new adventure as a senior research associate at the Smithsonian, soon becoming the curator of termites. She continued fieldwork around the world, publishing over 40 papers of her work, mostly about termites, of course. Collins also established a permanent reference collection of native insects at the Georgetown Museum in Guyana, as well as building the impressive Collins Connect collection at the U.S. National Museum. She is honored with the name of a new termite species. She died doing what she loved, out in the field collecting termites in the Cayman Islands, and the legacy of the Termite Lady will stand forever. This book, Black Women Scientists in the United States, has a beautifully written biography of Margaret Collins, full of personal interviews and a detailed account of her journey. Dr. Ernest James Harris made enormous strides in protecting the fruit trade with his work on the management of fruit fly pests and biocontrols. Ernest James Harris's teachers recognized that he had a natural curiosity and interest in science, and they encouraged him to stay in school and pursue a college degree. In 1946, he enlisted in the armed forces and became one of the first Black Marines in the United States, serving in the Montford Point Marines, which segregated. Through his service, he was able to put both himself and his sister through school on his GI Bill, earning his Bachelor of Science in Chemistry and Zoology in 1951 at the University of Arkansas's Pine Bluff. After undergrad, he lived in Milwaukee, Wisconsin as he took additional classes and worked. It was here that he met his wife, Betty Jo, and enjoyed taking cross-country motorcycle rides on his bike. Eventually, Harris made connections to work in Minnesota forestry, surveying habitat and collecting data. This work transitioned to his graduate studies at the University of Minnesota, where he earned his master's degree in entomology studying weevils. Harris soon took a job in the United States Department of Agricultural Research Service in Hawaii, where he worked extensively on controlling fruit fly pests that damage fruit exports in Hawaii, Guam, North Africa, and other places around the world. This involved sterilizing thousands of flies and releasing them so that when they bred with the wild flies, they cannot lay eggs. As he worked for the USDA, Harris also made progress towards a PhD, graduating in 1975 with a doctorate degree in entomology. His main focus on the control of Mediterranean fruit fly, or medfly, which was quite invasive and damaging. The flies themselves are strikingly beautiful, but their maggot babies are less than welcome, and his research helped protect thousands of dollars of fruit crops. Harris worked on establishing a natural biocontrol of these particular flies by creating stable lab colonies of the type of tiny wasp that paralyzes fly eggs, thus controlling the population of flies. This special lab colony is known as the Harris strain of wasps. During his career, Ernest James Harris accumulated numerous awards and recognitions. He was accepted into the Royal Entomological Society of London, inducted into the Arkansas Black Hall of Fame, received an international commendation from the Chilean government for saving their fruits from fly damage, earned an NAACP Lifetime Achievement Award, the Congressional Gold Medal, and was inducted into the USDA ARS Hall of Fame. Even when he retired in 2006, he kept coming into work. In total, Dr. Harris published over 100 papers and book chapters about his work, which are still cited today. The Congressional Gold Medal was awarded in recognition of his service at the Montfort Point Marines, the first black Marines who served during World War II, helping to desegregate the military and take steps on a long, rough road towards equality. Dr. Harris accepted his medal proudly as friends and family watched in support, and he had the honor of meeting President Barack Obama. In his autobiographical memoir, Dr. Harris recommended that young students join a professional society and present their work, reaching out to meet other scientists and establish beneficial collaborations. For when we work together and support each other, that's how we can stay strong and reach new heights. These are 4 historical entomologists who have made enormous impacts on the study of insects and arthropods. There are more folks who have not been highlighted here, and we are grateful for the work they have all done.